What is up, fantasy people? Welcome back to the True North Fantasy Pod. I am Trav, as always, coming live and direct from a secret location within the True North Fantasy lair. To my left, on screen right, is Tyrell McLaughlin, co-hosting in West Coast and Ty. It was draft night tonight. It was a whirlwind, a roller coaster of emotion for yours truly. What did you think, my man?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was there were some trades and
Like 10 of them or something.
And both of our teams made splashes, you could say, and a lot of wide receiver action and a lot of wide receivers, and that's about it.
Boom. Yeah, there was 6 wide receivers, 6 in the first round, all within the top 20 picks. Actually, you mentioned the Steelers made an offensive pick at 20, and we'll get to that. But after that, there was actually no more offensive picks. So what we're going to do tonight, Ty, is we just wanted a bit of a casual session. We're going to sit down and shoot the shit about some of these picks. We're going to go from pick one down, talk about all the fantasy relevant players. And I think it's going to be good to just have our instant reactions up on the network. I do want to say a big shout out to our friends at fantasypoints.com. We are a part of the Fantasy Points media group. They have a ton of stuff going on right now. They just launched golf content a couple weeks back. They have tons of NFL draft content. Dial into their channel on tomorrow, Friday, for more draft coverage, as well as Saturday. And of course, their 2022 prospect guide, which Greg Cosell is writing all his profiles for, Ty. And I heard Joe Dolan on one of the shows the other day say that Cosell is committed to continuing to add profiles to that just because he wants more fulsome content for the people. So that draft, that prospect guide is still getting updated throughout the offseason and getting you ready for, your redraft drafts or even your rookie drafts as we lead in. So it's really busy over there at fantasypoints.com. Our promo code TrueNorth22 will get the people 10% off of their subscription for 2022. That's True North 22. That's probably the best way to support us if you like the True North Fantasy Pod, is go and support fantasypoints.com because they have been big supporters of us. One other thing I want to get out of the way here before we start getting into it, Ty, is a bit of an announcement. You might have seen if you were dialed into the TNFF network for most of the day today, that our friends from the Dynasty Tilt pod, the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast, their Twitter handle is at Dynasty Tilt. They are now a part of the TNFF network. You will see their shows broadcast on our YouTube channel and the Twitter as well, and they have a site page as well. I made a nice little page for them with little video carousels and things to their playlists and stuff like that. Go check it out at truenorthffb.com/full-tilt, and the entire crew's content, of course, can be found at truenorthffb.com. Super thankful to have those guys on board. They're a super energetic, active crew, and they're putting out really good content, so it's pretty cool to band together. A couple Canadian kids out there, Ty, they keep their sticks on the ice, so it was just a real good match,
I've been big fans of especially Jacob and Tipples for a long time. It's such a great addition and some good synergy, I think, coming for sure.
Oh, big time. Yeah, we can just like two heads are better than one kind of thing. Like now we have more than two, obviously, but putting the heads together is just going to be better for
and we'll have
for
to
both
all
of us.
get our heads together in the same room here in the
near
future.
Do some collab shows and stuff would be really, really fun as well. So keep her dialed to the TNFF network for that, because it's going to be your home for tons of content throughout the season and the off season. So just fun growing and fun connecting with new people, Ty. We're going to get into it though, Ty. Like, this was an
Speaking
insane...
of new people.
Yeah, new faces in new places. We did some of those episodes with free agency and trade impacts as far as veteran players, but now there are a bunch of new faces in new places as far as rookies. The first few picks, it was pretty defense heavy, Ty, but we got a little bit of juice as we moved through the top 10 and into the early teens. So the first pick, Ty, I'm not going to waste any time. We'll just kind of get into it. Trayvon Walker to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Georgia product. There was some discussion as to whether it would be Aiden Hutchinson. We had seen way earlier in the offseason, there was a lot of Kayvon Thibodeau buzz there, but it ended up being Trayvon Walker from Georgia, and that's a nice pick for the Yags. Aiden Hutchinson stayed home in Michigan with the Detroit Lions. Love that pick. Love what they're doing, and we are going to get into more of that in a little bit. Houston Texans, Derek Stingley. Lots of buzz about that in the last 48 hours before the draft. Sauce Gardner, back-to-back cornerbacks, getting saucy with the New York Jets. They didn't ask him what his favorite sauce was, did they? What's your favorite sauce, Ty?
Alcohol.
Yeah, hitting the sauce. Yeah, couple bowls, a loudmouth soup, folks. Next was the New York Giants with the back-to-back New York picks. Kayvon Thibodeau went at 5 overall. I think that's some nice little value for the Giants
New York.
who need to rebuild that defense. And I think a better defense is only going to help them not have to rely too much on Daniel Jones, whose fifth-year option, I believe I saw the Giants did not pick up. So it looks like they're going to try and move in another direction at quarterback if he doesn't light the world on fire this coming season, which I don't think we expect Danny Dimes to do. Feel free to jump in here on any of these, Ty, if you want to fire away. Yeah. Well, actually, this pick that we're getting to, the number 6 pick, was kind of a crux where we were kind of deciding where we might see a quarterback go, and then start to see some different dominoes fall. But
we know how I felt about the quarterback position.
Yeah,
I think we saw that come true to fruition, and
totally,
and just the lack of quarterbacks selected in round 1.
That was definitely good call on your part. I was seeing a lot that they were going to go, so I was kind of drinking the tea that there was going to be some quarterbacks going early. My thoughts always were that was going to be an overdraft for sure, but I thought it was going to happen, but it didn't end up happening.
Well, that's why I think I love things like the draft guide is such an invaluable resource, because you can see that Cassell also feels that way, or certain people who evaluate these players feel the same way, that they're just not first round picks, so to speak. And it's hard to separate or divorce the community that is fantasy Twitter.
Oh, dude, yeah, we're so
and
in
even
it.
draft Twitter as well. A lot of Devy people have a lot of emotion invested in these players, I would say, and it just seems like there's not as much overlap as we would hope sometimes. Even though round 1 of the draft is over, and some of the top players in fantasy rookie drafts, especially Superflex rookie drafts, still are on the board. They're still available. Haven't been drafted yet.
That's going to make for a really good day 2 of the draft, 100%, because there are a lot of really good players still on the board. But yeah, the Carolina Panthers, Ike Ekwonu. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, but that's where we kind of thought it could be like a Malik Willis situation. Did not happen. So they got the O-lineman back-to-back, actually, with the Giants picking at 7 as well as 5. They got Kayvon Thibodeau to redo the defensive line, and then they got Evan Neal to go on the offensive line after the recent pick of Andrew Thomas, which is something you were talking about when that pick was made. So I think those are nice picks for the Giants to kind of retool a little bit, get that offensive lineman. What do you think about what the Giants did there with 2 picks inside the top 10?
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like one of those picks could be wide receiver, but it did feel like they were going to take BP, like best player available, and then with that second pick, maybe get in the trade market. That ended up being pretty disgusting when it comes to trading back.
Oh, man.
But I thought maybe they could go wide receiver, right? So they were a team that we were watching to see if they would be the first team to maybe take a wide receiver. But they obviously wanted to address that offensive line, which was the clear other option, I think.
Yeah, and I think what that does is that shows a little bit of belief in Kadarius Toney, and so we're probably definitely going to see a big increase in targets for him with that vote of confidence after that first round pick last season. And I think, I've always been a bit of a believer in Darius Slayton, and then, who knows what Kenny Golladay we're going to see this coming season. But yeah, the Giants will be a roller coaster nonetheless, I'm sure.
Yeah, my ranks don't change much for them. It's like Kadarius Toney, wide receiver 3 or 4. And honestly, Golladay and Sterling Shepard are cheaper than they've ever been, but I want them maybe less than I ever have.
Yeah.
Even though
100%.
Everyone knows my feelings on Sterling Shepard.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's the next pick, though. Talk about a wide receiver taken. Drake London to the Atlanta Falcons with the 8th overall pick. I thought that was very interesting. Both of us aren't huge Drake London fans. There's been a lot of conversation about his contested catches.
I like Drake London.
Yeah, I thought you were. I
was just surprised that he was the first one. I think the big slot thing is what we have to get out of the way. He played over 95% of his snaps over the last 2 seasons in college at USC. Out of the slot, and he's a huge guy. One of the allures is that he's 6'4", 220 pounds, one of the biggest wide receivers in the draft, and there is a lot to like about him though. He's going to be a 21-year-old rookie in the NFL. I think he turns 21 in July. So he's super young, and he has that true number 1 upside because he can win in a lot of ways. He's kind of that guy who's too big for smaller defenders and too quick for bigger corners, I think. Yeah. So I like him. He profiles more of as a possession wide receiver though. He might not have that big deep ball receiving upside at the next level. We'll have to see how Atlanta uses him because Kyle Pitts obviously will work heavily in the intermediate as well. And play out of the slot a lot too. So, and obviously with Arthur Smith in Atlanta, there might not be a ton of room. I mean, I'm kind of burying the elephant in the room. Might be Marcus Mariota as well as their quarterback at the moment. So, yeah, he does profile more as a possession wide receiver. It's possible he's used as a big slot, but he has that age that there's a lot to like about him. And that I think he had close to a 60% contested catch rate that you alluded to, which was second best in this class.
Yeah, definitely a lot of tools there. I'm curious to see how he
can help in that block. He can help to block.
True that. I'm curious to see how that affects Kyle Pitts and his
maybe he's better
slot.
in the slot, and maybe Kyle Pitts kicks in, Hayden Hurst is gone. So
yeah.
Has a lot to maybe it's some impact with Kyle Pitts.
And then what happens with their rush to pass ratio being Marcus Mariota in the fold as opposed to Matt Ryan? You got to expect that to come down. And I think with just those two guys, say Drake London and Kyle Pitts, trying to kind of survive in that target share, I think those guys can be just fine. I don't know if Drake London's going to boom necessarily in year one, but we've seen it before. And he's, like you said, the guy that can profile with a lot of the traits that we kind of covet, especially in the red zone with touchdowns.
Yeah,
and so
I think that's where he could make his money.
I could see those two
guys. He might do more
having
tight end things than Kyle Pitts.
100%,
right?
man.
And you talk about basketball backgrounds. This guy averaged almost 30 points per game and 12 rebounds, and he played he played basketball in high school. So he's got that background that we all love from tight ends. But
totally,
when it comes down to it, he was one of the most productive wide receivers in this class. He scored over 21 PPR points per game. That was third best in this wide receiver class. He averaged almost 100 yards per game in college, third best in the class. Second most targets and catches per game in this class. Caught 74% of the passes thrown his way in college. So
that's nice.
He is an efficient wide receiver. He also what I think is being lost is he really does make people miss. He was borderline, elite when it comes to making guys miss in college. And, he was his final season was cut short due to a broken ankle, but he was on a borderline historical pace. He had 88 catches, over 1,000 yards, seven touchdowns in 8 games during his final season. He was the player of the year in the Pac-12 in 8 games.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, man. He did that too with Amon-Ra St. Brown there as an older prospect, and Drake London, like you said, is super, super young, so that is very, very impressive.
The only thing I really, just to cap it off, the only thing I worry about is the ceiling. I'm not sure. He caught 15 deep ball passes, passes that traveled 20-plus yards through the air in 2021, which is really good, but I'm just not sure he's going to have that role at the next level, especially with such uncertainty or ambiguity at the quarterback position in Atlanta right now. But yeah, I think he can make a lot happen after the catch. He can do a lot with the ball in his hands. He forced 24 missed tackles last year. That's elite stuff.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think he was tied first in forced missed tackles per reception in this class and averaged over 40 yards after the catch per game played.
That's pretty filthy, yeah.
Some filthy stats for him.
Totally, and I think the upside lies in that quarterback, because I think for him a big upside piece is him getting them double-digit touchdowns in a high-powered offense, right?
I think that's a big theme with a lot of these guys. It is almost every year when you see not every Jamar Chase is getting a Joe Burrow he played with in college. These guys get selected high because these teams are, they usually lack quarterback play.
Yeah, and every one of these wide receivers went to a pretty murky quarterback situation, that's for sure. So Charles Cross went after Drake London. Garrett Wilson, Charles Cross, went to the Seattle Seahawks to beef up that offensive line.
And they didn't trade out of the first.
Yeah, which is a little bit wild, but maybe that they were taking it as a freebie because that was a pick they traded for. You know what I mean? So Pete was like, "Nah, I don't have to trade it back because it didn't actually belong to us in the first place." You know what I mean?
And then the pick after them was their pick they traded for Jamal Adams to the Jets. So.
Yeah, so
which let's get to.
What goes around is all around. Hey, Ricky. The next pick at 10 was the New York Football Jets, and they made a lovely little pick, I think, to complement Elijah Moore. They went for Garrett Wilson, and I think, from just to kind of kick them off here, I think those guys can do kind of a lot of similar things, Ty. They both can open up a lot of space, and I think together they can open up a lot of space for each other in this offense, making Zach Wilson's life a lot easier. So I think Garrett Wilson, for me, is definitely a little bump for Zach Wilson in Dynasty. definitely too soon after the draft to have updated any of my ranks as of yet, but he probably would go up a couple of spots because he's a young kid. He's got 2 really young wide receivers. Corey Davis is still, a body there, and he's a big body, probably the only big body, so he could end up being a reliable little piece for Zach Wilson as well. So I really like what the Jets did, and we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about that because I think they had one of the best drafts of any team so far in the first round. Obviously, they had like a ton of picks, so you got to kind of nail those, I guess, or at least your hit rate goes up, or your chances of hitting with that many picks, and I think they did a good job here. Garrett Wilson, the Ohio State product. What's your take on him in New York with Zach Wilson? Do you think it's the bump that I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, for Zach Wilson, it bumps him up a little bit. I'm not sure how high we can get Zach Wilson at this point. It's kind of a prove it thing. I don't know. I like Zach Wilson. I've mentioned that he obviously comes with a lot more upside attached to him versus some other guys that he's ranked around or is going to go around in fantasy drafts. So there's some appeal there as, a late round target that's becoming exceedingly rare in the last few years. I think it does hurt Elijah Moore a little bit. It's hard not to be a little bit disappointed if you're, like myself, such a big Elijah Moore enthusiast. So it kind of sucked from that standpoint because I like Garrett Wilson. He's a big play waiting to happen. He adds a lot after the catch and everything, but he could be a career slot guy, I thought, like during the draft process. So maybe he ends up playing as a Z, you know what I mean? But he probably isn't your classic number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, though.
I think he can succeed in both areas, right? And I think they can move these guys both around a little bit. And I think Garrett Wilson, I think he can do pretty well on the outside if they employ him that way.
Yeah, I mean, he came in about 10 pounds lighter at the combine than, what he was listed at. Like, he's 6 foot, 183 pounds. So he's just thin. And, I like, don't get me wrong. He has high end speed, quickness. He has the shiftiness. Like, we all knew he was a really young wide receiver out of Ohio State. And that he was going to go in round 1 of the NFL draft. So he has a lot of stuff. I'm just saying that the situation isn't great with Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, the run game that was so lacking in volume last year, likely to maybe be a little bit better next year, at least a little more voluminous with the coaching staff that came in there. So yeah, I feel like we're banking a little bit on the athleticism, and he's actually a wide receiver who had a basketball background as well. He had Division I offers in basketball. So yeah, this guy's also very. And, he did produce a little bit on the outside at Ohio State. So there's a lot to like about him. He was very productive. Like, he had 23 career touchdown receptions, I think. Only Chris Olave scored more touchdowns per game in their college career. So, and what I like to see is that he also progressed throughout his career. Like, he posted more targets, catches, and touchdowns in every season at Ohio State. And, he just had a super solid final season while playing on the outside, which a lot of people would argue against. What I was saying is he could be a career slot guy, and he had like 70 catches, over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown in his final season. So I really like the production. I like the upside he comes with. I just worry about him against press man coverage and stuff like that. So I think he, like Deontay Johnson, how he's used is kind of I think the upside, it has to be. I think that's the upside. So I worry a little bit about him having a boomer bust label attached to him. So there's a lot to give us a little bit of pause for thought when it comes to value because of the draft capital and everything and just the situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Corey Davis obviously is the odd man out, right? So I would look for him to be the guy who kind of fades as far as targets are concerned. And I think behind those 3 guys, there's not a whole ton of but
I think he's the X. That's what I mean. Like, Corey Davis kind of will be on the field, I feel.
Yeah,
like.
But I think they're probably gonna try and be super creative to the point where that it's not gonna matter, right? Like, if you get those guys bunched, or if you get those guys both in the slot with maybe you throw old Mims out there in 4 wide receiver sets on the outside and have those 2 guys kind of bunched or in the slots. So I don't know. I think they can be creative, and I think these guys can do some damage after the catch as well, where they might try try and make things a little bit easy on Zach Wilson by getting these guys, like I said, opening space up for each other. So it's just like an easier read, and so he doesn't have to do too much. And maybe we can see that ascension that we kind of hope for from Zach Wilson, just because I think it would be a lot of fun to see the Jets with these players have a little offensive explosion. I would love that. Michael Carter as the running back. We'll see what happens in round 2.
They have some high draft capital offensive linemen there that need to come into their own as well. So if that happens, they can,
Yeah, nice little pieces for sure. Nice little pieces. So we had a little wide receiver run here. 2 more after Garrett Wilson. And the next one was his Ohio State teammate, Chris Olave, with the New Orleans Saints, who traded up from pick number 16 to pick number 11 with the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders, we thought, were a spot for a wide receiver themselves, but they traded back 5 spots, and the New Orleans Saints swooped in for some of that Olave. So what's your take on that? Because we got Jameis Winston, who we know can sling it. I can't recall who the OC is, but Dennis Allen is the head coach. He's a defensive guy, but needless to say, we know that they're going to be throwing the ball with Jameis, and they are a pretty run-heavy team historically, but I think with Alvin Kamara there and, the guys behind aren't really your Mark Ingrams necessarily, who are going to take on like 40-50% of that load. I think it's going to be curious to watch how much they put on Alvin Kamara's shoulders, and I think bringing Jameis Winston back and going after Chris Olave in the first round kind of tells me that they are still going to try and be competitive and put it in the air. And I think Michael Thomas is probably a part of that equation as well. The tight end situation is murky. Taysom Hill is trying to kill my Adam Troutman shares by converting fully to tight end. We also both just found out on the ticker tonight, fucking Andy Dalton is the backup quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Didn't even know that happened. So the Red Rifles gone down to Louisiana. Chris Olave in New Orleans. We were saying like this would be sweet if Sean Payton was still in the fold, but there's so many unknowns with the Saints right now. And I heard the guys on the Tilt crew just talking about like the Saints are one of those teams who has kind of like pushed the envelope year after year with the salary cap with Drew Brees trying to stay competitive, and now there is no Drew Brees and they're still trying to push it down the road as far as cap and staying competitive and stuff. So it's very curious what the Saints are doing with this team. I think they just didn't necessarily know what the hell to do without Sean Payton and obviously Drew Brees before that. So it's going to be an interesting offense to watch. We still like Alvin Kamara, but what do you think about Chris Olave there?
Well, I think Sean Payton also spent a lot of capital to trade up in drafts in recent years too. And one thing they still have is a very strong offensive line, a competitive defense. They play in a division that you can win games in. Yep. I really liked the pick. Like I really like Chris Olave. Like he's another Ohio State wide receiver with speed. He has like a lot of nuance. He has pedigree. He's kind of thought of as one of the best route runners in this like attractive wide receiver class. So,
for sure.
And I think he's one of the best deep ball receivers as well. And he's shown a very strong nose for the end zone. So I really like him. He plays on the outside. He might not be like a true number 1 in the NFL, but I think he really, like, I didn't love that. I would have loved to see him go to a wide receiver room like the Saints or something, or just a team that has a strong quarterback and a strong wide receiver already. Yeah. It just would have been so perfect.
For sure.
I think he complements a wide receiver room just perfectly because of the attention defenders will have to pay to him thanks to, like, the downfield threat he poses, the speed, the route running, all that stuff. So I really like it. What do you think this does for Michael Thomas?
Well, that's what I was going to talk about.
Do you think this tells us anything about?
I don't know necessarily. Like, I think it's. I think it remains to be seen a little bit. I think there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be targets to go around in this offense, though. And I think Michael Thomas is still in the fold there. He's still an amazing receiver, Michael Thomas. I'm just lost myself. I'm looking at, just to kind of peek behind the fourth wall here. We're streaming through a new platform and there's a new way of comments to come up. And our friend Kaylee is
wow,
is in an interesting location while she is commenting on the pod. So thank you for
Who doesn't have their phone in the bathroom?
So goddamn supportive, Kaylee. I appreciate that. Wow, that's dedication, folks. Find you some fans and listeners like what we have here on the True North Fantasy Pod is all I've got to say. We're talking about Michael Thomas, and I think he's just one of the best values. He's being kind of swept under the rug, so to speak. I think, did he not just get paid? Didn't they just give him a big deal not long ago? A couple seasons ago,
yeah,
before
like
the injury.
Yeah, it was like a couple of years ago.
So I mean, they can probably do
because
something
like
with
the
that.
age is interesting with Michael Thomas. Like he's not a spring chicken.
No, he was an older rookie. He's probably like 28, 29 now, eh?
And he's like relatively one-dimensional. Like I hate saying that about someone who's been so productive, but you talk about Drew Brees not being there anymore, and
yeah, it's rough. It's rough. I think Jameis can be serviceable though. You know what I mean? I think like it's going to be an offense that can stay afloat. You mentioned the division, and I think they think that too, right? They're going to want to be competitive. So I think they're going to try and put their best foot forward where that's concerned. And I really don't see behind those two and Kamara a ton of target competition. And I think with 625 pass attempts, I think there's plenty to go around for those three guys. So I'm hopeful for Michael Thomas to be like up to a top high end wide receiver 2 at this point, even I would definitely put him in that realm for 2022 dynasty. He's definitely down the board. Those injuries are a little bit worrisome with his age and the uncertainty on his team. So dynasty, a little bit of a hit.
Do you think Chris Olave is a top 5 rookie pick right now?
I think he probably creeps into
running
there.
back landing spots. I think he is. Like
so
I kind of
crazy
had him
with the
there
running backs.
before. Like I had Olave there before, and I think he's still a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I think you're probably right too, because we look at the other guys like Garrett Wilson went to the Jets, who are still a team that's in flux and trying to build that. We're not sure yet. Drake London to the Falcons. Obviously, the running backs have to kind of go off the board, and that'll push some of these guys back. But yeah, I'm looking at it now, and I like what you're seeing there in that Chris Olave is definitely probably a top 5 rookie pick at this point.
And it's soon we forget sometimes, like he kind of blew up the combine running the 4.39 and jumped 32 inches in the vert and 124 in the broad. So he showed that athletic profile, and the scoring is something that I always go back to. Like he scored 35 times in his career. 20% of his career catches in college went for a touchdown, and he's the only wide receiver in this class with over 30 touchdown receptions in their career. So I think he kind of lapped the field basically in that department, and I really like looking at touchdowns sometimes in college. And he had more catches in every season at OSU, 2 seasons with 12-plus touchdowns, scored 32 times in his final 31 games. It's just that he doesn't add a lot after the catch. That's like his only knock, I think. And other than that, he pretty much does everything else.
Totally, which is weird because just from like a profile and size perspective, you would almost think, and with some of his speed and route running, you would think that he could do some damage after the catch as well. So that's definitely an interesting little wrinkle as far as what he brings to the table. But I don't mind it. And it's just been like, since Drew Brees left, it's been really hard to figure out how to invest in this Saints offense aside from just Alvin Kamara or bust, right? I mean, I'm getting my heart broken by Adam freaking Troutman right now. So that says it all. The next pick, Ty, number 12 pick, I think this is, for me, my favorite fantasy relevant pick of the first round. And that would be the Detroit Lions swooping in. And this is really interesting because they traded up into the Minnesota Vikings pick. So the Vikings traded their 12th overall pick back to the Detroit Lions, who were at 32. So they came up 20 picks. And so what Detroit gave up is they gave up 34 in the second round and a third round pick for 46 in the second round. So they moved back 12 in the second and gave up a third to move up 20 picks in the first round. I think that is a smash deal for Detroit, who has put some really nice pieces together on this team and added Jameson Williams out of Alabama. And he was probably my favorite wide receiver in this class. Just brings that little bit of electricity and kind of, I think Joe on the Fantasy Points show was saying that was the only guy who Cosell was calling a game changer out of this wide receiver group. And that was pretty telling. He's the only guy who has, some abilities that really pop off the page. You know what I mean? I think everybody else does stuff really, really good. But there's no like exceptional traits that say, yeah, this guy's going to do that 100%. And I think Jameson Williams to Detroit, don't necessarily love him with Jared Goff, but I think
because he's probably the best deep threat in the draft.
Yeah, but Goff's not long for that team. You know what I mean? Like, I think they're going to be moving on. So he's definitely a long play. I think he can do some damage with his speed in the short term, but I think that's to the tune of like spiked weeks here and there in a little bit of a spotty fashion. So 2022, we're kind of pumping the brakes a little bit maybe for Jameson Williams, but I think it's wheels up for down the road, because if we look at this offense, they they've got Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is one of the biggest risers from last year to this year that I've even ever seen. And they brought in DJ Chark, who's a nice downfield threat, kind of big.
Yeah, he's dead now to me.
Yeah, he's dead. He's like that clear out route guy. You know what I mean? He's going to be clearing out space for these guys who can do more damage than he can, which is totally fine and useful in an NFL offense. TJ Hawkinson, a really nice offensive line. Aiden Hutchinson, and a defense that's building. Plunk a quarterback in there, and it's a nice freaking situation. DeAndre Swift, I didn't even mention. So
it's just hard to find that quarterback, though.
Totally, but I don't see these guys winning a ton of games.
And I think that a lot of that's going to get baked into his price. Don't get me wrong, I love Jamison Williams. Like he's out of Alabama. He's going to be 21-year-old rookie. And this is what weirds me out. Like I get it, because these players can also add like a tactical advantage to an offense because you have to account for them on every play. But yeah, you just don't really get that with Jared Goff at quarterback for the time being, and it's hard to wait on a quarterback. Like they just don't fall off a tree, you know. And totally. This year is an example with just one going, you know, and none in the top, you know, 19 picks. So I like it. I just think he's going to demand a lot of manufactured touches. So I think this kind of just hurts a lot of people. Like it just downgrades Swift a little bit. It downgrades Hawkinson a little bit in the target share department, and ASB as well, because I think the big news with Jamison Williams will be the health. Like, is he ready? Is he actually going to be on the PUP list? Who knows? Like, these are questions we're going to be asking throughout the offseason. But if he is good to go week one, I think it's going to be interesting to watch where like, who takes a hit here, because those three players, like, does he end up being an ancillary piece in year one? So there's a lot of questions with Jamison Williams. I think we should be patient with him. You're going to have to be because of the health right now. But he's one of these guys who's going to be absolutely electric to watch. Like, he's going to get manufactured touches once he is on the field, and he's going to be a threat to take it to the house at any point. And I just think he changes speeds and angles supernaturally. You know what I mean? Like, he's quick and fast, and I think he does a lot right. He's going to be one of the best deep ball receivers if he was to have landed attached to a good quarterback. He just didn't, though. So I think there's some concerns. Also, the weight, you know, like, he's just such a rail. Like, he's 6'2", 179 pounds. He came in about 10 pounds lighter than he was listed at. He was already thought of as, like, a really thin guy. Like, he just looks thin out there, you know what I mean? So, and this would be a point, because there is a couple of these wide receivers in this class and a couple that this is the first one, I think. But in the past 20 years, guys, only Deshaun Jackson and Emmanuel Sanders have scored 250 PPR points in a season while being listed under 180 pounds, which Jamison is. And, 220 PPR points barely cracked the top 20 at the wide receiver position last year. So that's it's kind of hard to stomach.
No, I feel that. I think he can overcome. And I think with just the Detroit Lions in general, I'm definitely playing the long game if I have any of them on my rosters. And I wouldn't hesitate to put it. Like, I would take him in rookie drafts over Chris Olave right now. Would you?
No, I would not.
You would take Olave? Interesting.
I get it. Like, I'm saying that he's going to have to get on the field. And he's also got a lot of competition, and I don't love the too many mouths to feed argument. It's just applicable in a handful of outlier situations, which I think Detroit is because of Jared fucking Goff. But yeah, like, the production was off the charts. Like, he had the second most PPR points per touch in this class. One of two players who averaged over 4 PPR points every game. Every time he touched the ball. So I really like him. I just think, and I think he scored the second most touchdowns per game behind just Chris Olave in this class, but he landed in Detroit, and I don't love the situation.
That's fair. I'm just a little bit more optimistic, maybe.
I agree. In 3 years from now, this will be a much different conversation. Totally. I do play a lot in that, like, 2 to 3 year window as opposed to that 5 year window or 10-year window or whatever people play in Dynasty. I really just want to pay my league dues for those next 5-10 years, right?
Yeah, no, I hear that. Okay, man, I like that. We got a little bit of a stretch with Jordan Davis to the Eagles at 13. I love that pick for my Eagles. This is total real football standpoint, but they've always their successful years were kind of building through the defensive line, and it's as a fan of the team, it is really nice to see them put out a really good defensive line year after year. So I like that they reinvested in that with a monster of a human in Jordan Davis, who is very athletic for his size. extremely Baltimore Ravens pick next at 14 with Kyle Hamilton, the safety, going to Baltimore out of Notre Dame. Just like, a blue chip prospect kind of guy who can come in and be a piece of this defense that they always just retool so well in the draft. I think that was an extreme Baltimore Ravens pick. The Texans went for Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman, and that was actually a trade back with the Eagles. The Eagles traded up to 13 for Davis and traded back with the Houston Texans. And the next pick was one, Ty, we were watching this one together actually, and you were pretty puzzled by this one as far as the fit is concerned, with the Washington Commanders selecting Johann Dotson out of Penn State at the number 16 overall pick, which is the one that they traded back from 11 with the New Orleans Saints, who picked Chris Olave. So it was like they, traded Chris Olave for Johann Dotson plus. But what do you think about that Johann Dotson fit? Carson Wentz, Terry McLaurin there, Logan Thomas, Antonio Gibson. Interesting offense to try and decipher, man.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I was surprised that he went in the first round. I didn't really think of him as like a first-round guy. He's kind of a smaller, lighter wide receiver that isn't on the younger side coming into the NFL either, but definitely has some like translatable traits, and he improved throughout his career at Penn State. I thought he was more of a round two guy, but the issue I see basically is the lack of a ceiling maybe at the next level, unless he landed in a really good situation. Like if he goes to Kansas City, this is a much different conversation, right? Because I think he probably needs a good amount of manufactured touches. The draft capital definitely moves him up in my rankings big time, especially when you think of some of the names still on the board, but the situations could be better for other guys, and that could, counterbalance it. And he's also, like I just mentioned that stat about the last 20 years, guys who weigh under 180 pounds. Like he's 5'11", 178 pounds, which was lighter than expected. So I just think it's tough because he's one of those guys who's very shifty. He's a threat with the ball in his hands, like we're saying with a lot of these guys. Good route runner, plays through contact. Like you heard that time and again about him as well. Very sure-handed, makes some really nice catches. Like he has an awesome highlight reel as well. So there's a lot that people will be on board with, the 15 yards per reception during his career. So there's a lot to like about Dotson. I just think that the situation isn't good enough to make me kind of, and even the draft capital for that matter. Like, yeah, he's got first round draft capital now, but that's less important than it is for, say, a running back or something. So I like the pick for real life, kind of. Like, I think he'll fit right in there, but I just don't see the fit with Wentz being that great either. No. And Wentz is not a guy who's delivering those manufactured touches perfectly. He's kind of looking for that second read. Like,
it's always the big play.
Yeah. So and the offensive scheme and everything isn't something that I'm trying to chase either in Washington. So there's just not enough for me to really start driving him up my rookie board yet.
No, I dig that. You know what? All of that you were saying kind of gives me vibes of Jalen Reagor.
Oh, yeah.
Gives me some Jalen Reagor vibes, just like a guy who...
But I thought Reagor could play on the outside. I thought...
Me too, man. I had extremely high hopes for him. And I think, I'm not, comparing them one for one, but, he's a guy who's not very big, who is pretty good for a smaller guy in contested catch situations. Like you said, plays through contact. Plays bigger than he is, essentially, right? And Jalen Reagor was that. So, It's hard for me because it's Washington, so I got to be unbiased, but they're also a division team. So curious to see how it shakes out. They're going to need new quarterback play for the long term for him to be anything that we want, or that I think we want for Dynasty.
I'm excited for what do you think about some of the weapons? Because I'm excited to see what Terry I think this is good for. I think this is good for. See, this is bad for Deion.
Yeah, terrible for.
I think this is really good though for someone like Terry McLaurin, who might be freed up to do a little bit more down the field in the intermediate. He's finally got the best quarterback. Trust me, I don't want to say this about Wentz, but he is with the best quarterback play. That should speak to how poor the quarterback play suffered. He's had to suffer through and endure through his young career. So I love Terry McLaurin as a talent. I've been saying all offseason how much of a steal he is. And I don't think this should worry folks. I think that's another thing that he's lacked is any semblance of a wide receiver taking attention away from him on the other side of him. And I think, maybe at least Dotson provides that.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Johann Dotson would be the guy who's getting a lot of those manufactured short touches where he has to do a lot of the work himself. Terry McLaurin has been like a Mr. Do-It-All for this offense, and like you said, like let's ease up the load and let him get some of the glory stuff instead of being the guy who has to always take one for the team, right? So I'm looking for a big year from Terry McLaurin. Carson Wentz can throw the ball downfield. He can be a decent deep passer if he's terrible in the short and oftentimes intermediate and oftentimes making the smart play realms. He is a guy who will look to push the ball downfield, and that's, before Johann Dotson, that's why I was kind of excited for De'Ami Brown, man, as that guy who can get open down the field. But I don't know how these guys will fit now, because like we're saying, Terry McLaurin's going to kind of probably take over a lot of that deeper down the field stuff. It's an interesting one.
One more question about this,
Yes.
because with Washington making kind of this bold move to go wide receiver, do you think they go straight Madden mode? And because there's a lot of rumors that they're picking a running back tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's smokescreen. I don't know. I think they brought J.D. McKissic back after he almost signed with the Buffalo Bills. Like, it was the old whoop, nope, sorry guys, you know what I mean? So they really wanted J.D., the McKissic bandit, back on their roster to be a large piece of this target share, in my opinion. I think he is going to make the folks who want Antonio Gibson to be that full bell cow running back, I think he's going to make them pretty sad this season, actually. Once again, right? The people wanted that last season, but they still were on board with knowing that McKissic was going to be that. I think the needle is starting to move over to the point, even after what the team is telling us by bringing McKissic back. I think it's leaning towards the fact that McKissic's going to take the heavy target share and Antonio Gibson's going to have to do the dirty work, which he's good at. And he's obviously going to be a candidate for double-digit touchdowns, and he can break big plays off, and he'll still get some targets in this offense. The quality of targets remains to be seen, and that goes for J.D. McKissic as well with Carson Wentz. Such an interesting fall off for him, because there was that one season where they could do no wrong throwing to the running backs, and then he just started to be awful at it. So that was devastating for me as a Birds fan, and I think it could be to the detriment of these guys, but I think they'll be okay, you know what I mean? Just don't expect Antonio Gibson to be a top 12 running back, and maybe don't expect J.D. McKissic to be a top 24 PPR running back again. But what's your take on those guys?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of takes on the running backs. Like, I think they're going at fair prices. I like Antonio Gibson just fine at cost.
Mm-hmm.
Love the talent, of course. I think he's a guy who has kind of an unlimited ceiling, especially in this day and age. Like, he can do everything, including catch the ball. So, work going away from McKissic into Antonio Gibson would never surprise me. And just to go back to this pick, like, I think the reason I'm not rushing him up my board, the biggest reason is that I don't see the ceiling there, you know what I mean? Because Terry McLaurin's going to be clearly ahead of him in the pecking order, and the manufactured touches might not be as appealing in this offense with this play caller, with this quarterback, as they would be in a lot of other offenses, even if he went in the second round instead of having that first round, that sexy, shiny first round draft capital.
Yes, that DC, as the spreadsheets would say. Hey, Ty, the spreadsheet column headers DC, and we know what that is automatically in the fantasy football space. So enough about the Washington fucking Commanders. Let's talk about the Philadelphia goddamn Eagles, Ty. Pick number 18. The Eagles are on the clock. Oh wait, it's the Tennessee Titans. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Tennessee Titans have made a trade. What's that trade, you say, Ty? The Eagles have traded the 18th pick and a third-round pick to the Tennessee Titans for A.J. Brown, baby. I was fired up. I was on all levels of the house doing my best Ric Flair. Woo! Jet flying, limousine riding, styling, profiling. A.J. Brown is a Philadelphia Eagle, Tie. And it's interesting because we've heard the comps, Treylon Burks to A.J. Brown. Who do the Tennessee Titans select at 18? Treylon Burks. So let's start with the Eagles. Do we want to start with the pick, or do we want to start with the Bird Gang?
Well, let's talk A.J. Brown really quick, because I said to you when the pick happened, I don't really love that for fantasy and blah, 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 as I am usually my cynical self. But I would just say he's going to one of the worst situations for a wide receiver to be in. I know that A.J. Brown is a fantastic talent. He's probably, him or Deebo Samuel are kind of the two best after-the-catch wide receivers. Throw Cooper Kupp in there in the league, and A.J. Brown has been a touchdown scoring machine. But with Jalen Hurts, with the run-heavy scheme in Philadelphia, I do worry about those touchdowns evaporating a little bit.
For sure.
There's just a lot of weapons in that offense as well that, could be used down around the goal line, and, Jalen Hurts is going to try and run a lot in as well. So I worry about the touchdown upside with A.J. Brown that we've kind of had to rely on, because efficiency has definitely been the name of the game, because, he's been in a very low-volume passing game over the last few years. So do you think that A.J. Brown is a top 12 wide receiver, basically?
Oh, it's I think in a vacuum in the NFL, I think he's a top 12 talent at wide receiver. But I think the question that you're asking me is in relation to fantasy football. And as much as I love the move and love the Birds and love A.J. Brown, I don't think I could put any receiver on the Eagles in the top 12 right now for fantasy football. I'm going to pull up my ranks here, Ty, and just do a quick little...
I just did too, because I don't even know if
it's it's hard to even put a value on it right now, without even looking. So we'll pull them up here. Like I said, this is going to be just kind of a casual stream where we're sitting here shooting the shit. We're about 46 minutes in, having a good time.
So I always am, talking football draft weekend. So I have him as a top 10 wide receiver right now. Do I move guys like T. Higgins, guys like that ahead of him? I don't know. Maybe even Terry McLaurin now. I just love Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, dude. I've been pretty.
You know who I have to move down is Elijah Moore a little bit. And Amari Cooper. What was I thinking?
I feel that. So I got A.J. Brown at wide receiver 7 right now, and he's definitely coming down. So behind him,
But top 12, I think he might still be more of a back end top 12 wide receiver. But I think the one caveat I've always offered with A.J. Brown is that he is a little bit capped in that offense, maybe relegated to more of a spiked week kind of guy. When you play in such a run-heavy offense, it's tough for a wide receiver to deliver big weeks, consistently. So I think that doesn't change, because he's going to an offense that was the run-heaviest team in football last year in Philadelphia.
So I think this is very telling for us that is going to change a little bit, and they're going to try and let Jalen Hurts just take the reins, and they're not going to automatically be an extremely pass heavy team. I think they're still going to skew towards the run. They have a running quarterback, and I think just naturally your rush to pass ratio obviously is going to skew more towards the run because of those running back rushes, those off script were going to be a pass, but you ran the ball obviously. And that's just kind of baked into this offense, and that's kind of why I can't have him inside my top 12. I probably got him at around 16, actually, right now, just looking at my rankings. But I think that's still, totally fine. That's more than I was expecting out of Devonte Smith in this offense. I didn't expect him. I had him outside the top 24. I'm at wide receiver 30 for this coming season, Devonte Smith. So I think this team is going to commit to the pass a little bit more, see what Jalen Hurts has. I don't see why they wouldn't. You know what I mean? They have a workable defense. They have pieces around him now. Goddard. They have a solid offensive line. They have those 2 wide receivers, and then whatever Jalen Reagor or whatever those guys are.
Well, and Dallas Goedert, I think his volume is a little bit less, locked in or cemented. I think Devonte Smith's volume's obviously going to be the concern for him, and predictability, when are you going to start him, when will those big spiked weeks come. But I'm pretty confident off of play action, this definitely makes Philadelphia a much better football team. I was surprised a little bit by the deal.
I don't think I don't know. I think it was a great deal for Philly. They signed him to a 4-year, $100 million deal. So he's making $25 million per. Well deserved. Get the money right. And I think any team trading for him was going to have to lock him up. And that's why Tennessee traded him, is because they knew they were going to have to lock him up. And I think what that signals is that, probably after this season, Tennessee is going to look towards a little bit of an offensive retool, probably at the quarterback position, right? Because you
send Tannehill to Philly.
Don't even
think
I'm
just
about
saying,
it.
I think, my take about the offense wasn't I'm sure that's what we'll hear a lot of, is he's going from one of the least voluminous passing games to one of the least voluminous passing games, but he's also downgrading in quarterback play. And trust me, I'm no Tannehill enthusiast. I never have been a big, Tannehill guy because efficiency is hard to bank on, and you're banking on efficiency maintaining with AJ Brown. And I know we've seen the trend bucked a little bit over the last couple of years, but wide receivers who change teams don't do as well in that first season. And unless you're getting a big upgrade in situation or volume, it's hard to bank on that guy being an outlier as much as AJ Brown's been an outlier his whole career.
For sure.
And a testament to why day 2 is important. Tomorrow, day 2 is going to be
absolutely fun. It's going to be buck wild.
So who Tennessee drafted? Traylon Burks, big-bodied wide receiver out of Arkansas. 225 pounds. He's the heaviest wide receiver in the draft. I think he profiles like an alpha X wide receiver, but he never played there at Arkansas. You know what I mean? Like there's a ton of ambiguity. I thought he was such an interesting guy during the draft process. I think we hope he gets used as like an outside X wide receiver, kind of maintaining that deep threat we saw he offered in college, as well as being like a big target in the end zone in the NFL, we hope. But the athletic testing was pretty disappointing, and it kind of scares those of us who assume he might transition to the outside, and be able to beat corners one-on-one, having no experience doing it even in college. So the athletic testing definitely concerned me, and that kind of like kept Traylon Burks from like I kind of really liked Traylon Burks throughout watching college football. There, you know what I mean?
Totally. And he looks great on the tape. Like his tape is fucking awesome.
Well, he's got like that contested
huge
catch stuff,
and he's just
good at
great.
the catch point. Like the body control, all that.
And
stuff's
after the
there.
catch too, he's a fucking monster.
Yeah, he's like he's very powerful. That like lower half when he just
totally.
But you
looks
definitely
big in pads. Yeah.
You see the slowness kind of like show like he's a bit clunky, you know what I mean? Like he's a bit stiff looking. And,
even when he breaks away from college guys, you can kind of see like he's not going to be breaking away from NFL guys with that kind of speed that he's got. And I think that bore out in, like you said, the athletic testing. Yeah, I think he's just going to be an interesting guy because he has to be used properly, right? He has to be used in such a specific way, and just the like size profile doesn't fit how he's going to produce. And I don't know. I think he might be best used out of the slot, to be completely honest. I kind of hope that a team or that they don't use him a ton on the outside. I think in Tennessee though, like he's got to do it.
Well, that's what weirds me out. This is exactly what we said about
man.
AJ Brown. This is exactly what we said about AJ Brown.
He should be. It's such a weird comp. It's so like such a direct kind of translation of the same situation that he was in.
Because Burks played almost 80% of his career snaps in the slot at Arkansas, right? And but what I like is the yards after the catch was there. Like he averaged 8.6 yards after the catch per reception over his final 2 seasons. He broke 24 tackles on 115 catches. So I really like, and he also like he was really efficient in the deep passing department as well. So he has a lot of those traits that we like, and maybe he's the guy because of the size, right, who just plugs right into that AJ Brown target in the end zone that has been so efficient because you have Derrick Henry on the goal line, right? So you run play action and your big body studs right there.
Totally. Tackle. So where does he rank among these other guys, Ty? So Traylon Burks. I think Johann Dotson. Yeah, Johann Dotson's low for you, I think, and low for me as well.
I don't even know if I had him as a top 12 wide receiver.
Okay, so I would take Burks over Jamison Williams. Burks and Olave.
That's tough. Like
Very
I
close.
think they're like starting to be a tier of their own right now heading into like I really like them. Yeah,
I agree. I think like Drake London could sneak in there based off of necessary volume. Like Drake London's probably going to have to be targeted in that Atlanta Falcons offense. It's him, Kyle Pitts, and fuck all else, right?
I definitely don't think I'll get Drake London into that.
No,
tier,
I think he's a tier below, but I think he could sneak in there by the end of season. He could produce right alongside those guys. Garrett Wilson's so interesting with the Jets, but I don't like fuck, I want him to be up there, you know what I mean? But I don't think he necessarily is. So Treylon Burks is probably like, it's funny because he fell to 18. Everybody was talking about him for a while as the wide receiver 1 in the class. He kind of fell down people's boards a little bit with the athletic measurements. And now, based on opportunity that he's going to get, and seeing that this team has used somebody in the same manner that Treylon Burks should kind of be used to. They've, also misused AJ Brown a little bit, but he still produced for fantasy football. It's just such a wild case to see him fluctuate so much and then come back to the top, after being like, was he the 6th wide receiver taken? So yeah, good for him. And he's definitely somebody I'd be targeting because he's got necessary volume coming his way. What a trade for the Birds, though. Let's fucking go, AJ Brown. Sorry, I couldn't contain that. The last fantasy relevant pick of the first round, it was very defense and O-line heavy, which is totally cool. Like, I think we'll get into some takeaways from the draft in a second. Actually, we'll talk about this other pick here. 20th pick overall, the Pittsburgh Steelers went for Malik. Oh, no, they didn't, Ty. And this was another one that you were calling. You were fucking poo-pooing on Malik Willis, to be completely honest.
Well, not necessarily
and you were saying you love
saying...
some Kenny Pickett, and I always say that you're dialed into the Steelers, and you were saying they have certain processes, and following the tea leaves, you thought that if they went quarterback, they were going to go Kenny Pickett, and they did.
Yeah,
they did.
And trust me, it's not like what I wanted. Like,
yeah,
it's not even what it has nothing to do with fantasy. It was just a lot of people were saying that 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. I was just saying my opinion is that we'll be lucky if we see 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And
ding ding ding.
And then everyone was saying, oh, the Steelers might trade up to 12 to take Willis, and I was saying I don't even think they're taking Willis if they have him available at 20. I think they'd take Kenny Pickett. They love Kenny Pickett.
Can confirm that you did say that, yeah.
And I don't mind Kenny Pickett. Like, I'm not like a huge Kenny Pickett fan. I don't think he has like top 5 fantasy quarterback upside necessarily, but he is getting a good array of weapons.
Great weapons.
I think that's interesting, and a running back and some free money players in that offense. I think that can really help him out.
For sure.
But might lend to like that lack of like an ultimate ceiling. He's got some mobility. He's got that strong arm and kind of a good feel for the game. You hear a lot. Like, he has accuracy and acumen, and size and athleticism. So he has all the characteristics, traits kind of you want to see. And kind of the thing is the production. Like, he had kind of a lackluster career before absolutely blowing up in 2021. Like, he finished 3rd in Heisman voting after the 2021 season. I think he won the Johnny Unitas Award or whatever that went to Mac Jones and Joe Burrow the year before that. So
both guys in similar situations that did not get a ton of playing time and exploded in their final seasons. Yeah.
And he has athleticism that Mac Jones didn't have, but he kind of reminds me of Mac Jones in a way where he's going to this situation that's kind of nice with a path to playing time, because he definitely comes in. I think he might be a day 1 starter, but I definitely think he has the easiest path to playing time, and he might have been the most quarterback ready or the NFL ready quarterback in this class as well. So just the wild jump in year 5, his 4th season as a starter, it's kind of concerning, like how long it took him to put up a special season. I'm not sure that I want to gift him any super upside in fantasy. I just don't know if he's going to be that special guy, but he definitely has a strong arm. Like, he can make throws outside the numbers and to the sideline and stuff, and that's going to be good in this offense that wants to run a lot of screens and things like that. And I think the accuracy is something I always look for, and we definitely saw that in 2021. I think he has that like feel for pressure and avoiding it, good instincts. I think he can do a lot because he can move outside the pocket, and even if the play breaks down. So he's athletic and mobile, but he's looking to make plays. So he suits that NFL style, that quarterback style that people are looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he brings like some of the same things that Trubisky brings to the play as far as the mobility. I think he is like a way better ball distributor, obviously, way more accurate than Trubisky. So I think that's what he can come in and do, and I think that's all this offense really needs is a guy who can distribute to these weapons, right? I don't even think he needs to have like a cannon of an arm or anything like that, because like Chase Claypool and his size profiles really nicely down the field in jump ball situations. That's great, but he's not like Chase Claypool isn't necessarily used as your run go.
Well, we haven't really had the
downfield
quarterback
guy necessarily.
we haven't really had the quarterback play or the arm strength from Big
Yeah,
Ben.
and I think Kenny Pickett will be a little bit more live-armed than that, just because he is young. You know, he doesn't have a ton of tread on the tires.
But he's definitely going to have to learn to deliver these balls to these guys on these manufactured touches, dump it off to the running back. Like, he holds on to the ball forever. That's the big knock on him, I thought. Like, the time to throw is just concerning. Yeah,
for sure.
And then just the production, like he had 42 touchdown passes last year after 41 touchdown passes on like 1,000 attempts through his previous 4 seasons. So it's just one of those things where it almost felt like a fluke at the like as you were watching it, but yeah, just obliterating your career highs and everything, like completion percentage, yards per attempt,
for sure.
Like. And doing that as a 23-year-old is just something you have to keep in mind. But he definitely, he had just over 800 yards rushing in his college career, so he adds that kind of athleticism that you definitely need. Like that 200-yard rushing season is something that's in his range of outcomes, and he scored 13 rushing touchdowns over his final 2 seasons.
That's good, yeah, that's nice. And I think like the Steelers are in a really good situation where you were saying that he could be a day one starter, but I don't think he necessarily has to be. And I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that he might not be necessarily, because the Steelers are a team that is ready. Like, this team's ready to compete. And I think maybe if he still needs like a little bit more of that development as far as reading and getting the ball out of his hands, maybe they put the reins on Trubisky, because they weren't necessarily sure they were going to get a quarterback with this 20th pick. That's why they went after Trubisky, because they knew that he could be a serviceable starter for them. And I think he can still be that and keep these weapons afloat and keep this team competitive in an extremely competitive AFC, because their defense is so damn good. Their wide receivers are so good. Najee Harris is going to be a stalwart for them. So I think this is a great situation for Pickett, but I think it's a situation where the Steelers don't have to put that much pressure on him necessarily. They can see if he can handle it, as opposed to these other teams who are picking at the top of the draft. When they pick a quarterback, that guy better fucking start, or that regime is going to be bounced.
I also
quick.
think there's a little bit of upside to now gift the group here, because with Trubisky, like, you know what you're going to get almost at this point of his career at this stage. And at least Pickett, you can imagine, like, your fantasy playoffs roll around and Pickett is starting and he's operating in the confines of this offense and really doing well. And that would be a sight to behold, because you have, a big breakout candidate like someone like Freiermuth, at the tight end position, in my opinion. You have Deontay Johnson, you have Chase Claypool, these guys we really like, and you have someone like Juju Smith-Schuster, all Ray McLeod. The guys have left, and Najee Harris, we worry about tight end and running back targets being able to sustain at the same time year after year, but this might be a situation where we can see that as well, because we know Najee is going to catch a ton of passes, and I think Pickett just helps this overall passing game and even the run game, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we should look for Pittsburgh to add a wide receiver, I should add, though.
Oh, I like that too. Yeah, definitely.
Which could put some salt on all.
They always restock the cupboard. And Ty will actually start getting into some of those people that are remaining, because that was the last fantasy relevant pick of less skill position player. Like, some of these O linemen can be relevant for fantasy and helping a running back with better blocking and helping a quarterback's blindside. Blah 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 blah. But we're gonna get into some of these guys remaining in the top of the second round just real quick before we ride out, Ty. 21st pick, Trent McDuffie, the corner. Quay Walker to the Packers after that. The Buffalo Bills. Okay, this was buck wild, Ty. Okay, we got to talk about this shit.
Yeah, the trade.
We almost missed it here. 23rd overall pick originally belonged to the Arizona Cardinals. The Baltimore Ravens swooped in, nevermore, and they traded Hollywood Brown and a 3rd round pick to the Arizona Cardinals for the 23rd pick overall. So this was insane, Ty. We both looked at it and had to double take at the TV because we were not entirely sure what we were seeing. Hollywood Brown immediately gets so interesting to me as the guy who's going to take the top off of defenses with DeAndre Hopkins, who's already a mega bounce back candidate. Rondale Moore, I think, is the biggest loser in this one, probably. It's weird because I don't think he does necessarily what either Hopkins or what Hollywood Brown are going to do. I just think the expectation of increased target share for him is absolutely gone now, because AJ Green actually was back there on a 1-year deal, and look how electric that fucking wide receiver core is. And Hollywood Brown is just a mega beneficiary. He goes from one of the lowest passing volume offenses where he had Rashad Bateman coming in to kind of take some of that work. And I've always said that they're going to have a bigger guy who's going to be on the field more often than the smaller guy because they want to make sure people know that they can run the ball and that he can be out there to block. So the situation's so much better for Hollywood Brown. Like, obviously, we haven't done our rankings or anything of that sort yet, Ty, but, like, I'm looking here, and I'm probably slotting him in, like, he's probably right around top 20-ish. You know what I mean? I'd probably put him in the neighborhood with, like, a DJ Moore, a Cortland Sutton kind of deal for me. Wow. Is where I would
definitely have DJ
Elijah
Moore, like, in a tier ahead of those guys, personally, but definitely see where you're coming from. It really hurts my Rondell Moore love. Like, I was really high on Rondell Moore going into this upcoming season, but I think it definitely makes me feel like the market is correct on Nuke, like the little bit of, like, the lack of love, I guess, for Nuke, or the lack of respect that, you know, given what he's provided us over the last decade or whatever. And so for Hollywood, he's going to give you some big spiked weeks. I mean, a vertical slot element to this offense is something I've just been screaming for in Arizona.
Yeah.
So I'd really hope that he just runs a lot of his routes out of the slot, and he's just going down to the goal line a lot of the time. So that's what I want to see. I want to see a lot of the play action in Kyler RPOs and stuff.
Even off schedule shit where Kyler's scrambling for his fucking life and he sees Hollywood's open by like 10 yards on any side of him and he just closes his eyes and hucks it up.
And that's all the stuff we always hope for, but what we always get is a lot of manufacturer touches and stuff. But Hollywood can do a lot with that too. So, you know, even if we see quick slants, stuff like that, you can take those to the house.
Hundo peas.
So Hollywood has that ability to make your week on any given play in your fantasy football lineup, but he still remains a guy because of the depth in that wide receiver room who's more valuable in best ball.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. I feel you. It's not going to be week to week consistent necessarily, but that's something we've already grown to expect.
It might be really hard to predict in Arizona too.
And I think like if he's going to have some consistency, I think he can have better consistency in Arizona than he may have had in Baltimore anyway.
Do you think this makes any difference in Baltimore? Like, a lot of the narrative has shifted over the last, 18 months in Baltimore from a fantasy perspective or whatever, from an offensive perspective, that they are throwing the ball more, that they're not just this one-dimensional run game. Do you think they're going to kind of go back to what worked for them?
I think that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're saying here is that, like, I think playing defense, running the ball, Rashad Bateman.
J.K. Dobbins rose-colored glasses speaking?
Not really, because, like, I've been a little bit fucking worried about J.K. Dobbins, to be completely honest with you. Those rumors about Melvin Gordon potentially.
And do you think Baltimore might be in play for a running back on day 2?
Ooh, that would hurt. That would hurt a lot.
I don't even know if they
I actually have it right here to be honest. Of course,
so
I'm being honest. I'm not going to lie to you about what I have pulled up on my fucking computer here, bud. They pick at 45, so that would be the 12th pick of the second round. So if we're looking, okay, let's dive into it, Ty. We talked a little bit of Hollywood Brown. We love him. Rashad Bateman gets a little bit of a bump. So we're looking at round 2. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and all the running backs there. None of them were taken in the first round, which wasn't necessarily a huge surprise, but I actually thought Breece Hall would probably sneak in there, to be honest. I thought one of those kind of top 40, between 33 and 40 teams might jump up into one of those spots, say maybe with the Chiefs, so the Chiefs could get more picks or something like that, but did not come to fruition. Jacksonville Jaguars are at 33, don't need a running back. 34 is the Detroit Lions, don't need a running back. New York Jets, I think that's the spot. I think Breece Hall is going to be a New York Jet, to be honest. Detroit traded 34 to Minnesota, so Minnesota actually has 34. They're not going to draft a running back, I don't think, with Dalvin. Jets, I think, are a really nice spot for Breece Hall. Giants, no. Houston Texans could go running back, but they've brought in like 4.
Texans were the worst run game in football.
Yeah, they brought in like a few different guys that to me looks like they're just going to run another stinky platoon. But you never know. Should
have kept Dante Foreman.
Yeah, no, nice. Marlon Mack's there though. I think like Marlon Mack is like really good last round of your best ball picks. Yeah. If he can get healthy, I think he's the guy who has more upside than anybody in that offense.
These Achilles guys have been,
which puts them at notch 1 as far as upside in that backfield.
Yeah, they were that bad.
They are so bad. Yeah, at 38, the Jets. So the Jets are at 35 and at 38 here.
Yeah, it's just with that kind of 49ers vibe to them now. You wonder if
Yeah.
They kind of adopt that philosophy that you don't draft running backs high.
Good
in the
point.
NFL
Good
draft.
point.
We'll see.
Chicago Bears at 39 with Montgomery. I don't see them prioritizing that because they did not have a first-round pick. Seahawks at 40 aren't going to draft a running back at 40, but they're always unpredictable. They have 40 and 41, actually. Colts at 42, no. Falcons at 43, that could be a running back spot for sure. They got Cordy P there. They signed which D. Williams? Damian Williams they signed. Cleveland Browns have a plethora of running backs, and then the Ravens at 45. So, yeah, I hope they don't go running back, and I don't think either Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall are going to make it to them at 45, really. Because,
yeah, I think Breece Hall is the only guy that I'm like 100% sure that will go in round 2. Like Isaiah Spiller, I don't know he'll go in round 2.
I think Kenneth Walker will.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I think he'll just I think he's just like a good pure runner. You know what I mean? I think a team's going to take that shot.
I think he was 15 pounds, 20 pounds heavier. I'd agree.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm not sure.
But I think, the Texans would do well to put him in their offense as their first and second down runner, insulate Davis Mills, get some semblance of a decent running game going because, Brandon Cooks, but your passing game is not going to win you fucking games, guys. Come on. It's I think both of those guys are going to go within the top 40. Let's look at the wide receivers that are left here. Ty, I got them pulled up somewhere here. Sky Moore is one of them. Christian Watson is another.
Justin Ross,
George Pickens, just scrolling
David
down.
Bell.
Look at that. There you go, buddy.
John Mechie.
Keep firing. John Mechie, love me some John Mechie, Canadian-born, actually. Canadian-born.
Pickens, George Pickens.
Yeah, I like him a lot, too.
Yeah.
I like him
Christian Watson.
Mm-hmm. I like Christian Watson a lot, too. I think the upside on him is crazy for his size and speed.
He's definitely going to be that arbitrage play. When people
I'm just scared that he's going to be wide receiver Adam Troutman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the guy who just flames the fuck out. But I don't know. I want
Wan'Dale Robinson is an interesting wide receiver, a little guy.
Like a Rondale Moore size type guy.
Yeah.
And
by the way, I think everyone I've named so far I had ahead of Dotson.
Did you? Yeah. Alec Pierce is another guy with a lot of good physical traits, like a really good athlete.
Who was the Eastern Kentucky guy or Western Kentucky guy? Jareth Stearns. Stearns, yeah.
Jalen
we're starting to get out of guys who.
Yeah, these guys will probably if they're lucky around 3 picks. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
Kevin Austin.
It gets pretty murky when you get back into that 4th, 5th round for wide receivers, and even murkier for running backs. So just honestly, if there's a running back that's past the 3rd round, you don't even touch him pretty much.
Like 2nd and 3rd round,
unless
is
it's
so
free and you can put him on a taxi squad in your dynasty leagues. Sure, that's fine, but most often, and even like hit rates aside, Ty, most often those guys are just going to sit on your taxi squad and do nothing.
And you have better odds on UDFAs than you do on
or I might
5th,
even
6th,
be more
7th
inclined
rounders.
to use that. So obviously not a taxi because I can't put a veteran in that, but I'd be more inclined to use that roster spot to churn even older veteran backup running backs just on the off chance that on name value they have one of those Adrian Peterson stretches where they're going to get 20 carries for 3 games straight and 64 yards, but maybe 2 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I would rather have those guys than those, UDFA 6th round running backs that I loved coming out, but you just don't get stuck on your pre-draft evaluation because that draft matters a lot. Okay, Ty, Malik Willis. We're going to rip through these landing spots just one more time and just see where we think Malik Willis is going to go, okay?
Sure.
If you have other stuff that you want to add, fire away, buddy, because I am totally open. There was no show sheet for this show. I hope anybody who's been listening has enjoyed the content and enjoyed sitting and shooting the shit with us. We decided to go live tonight just because we thought post-draft, right after the draft, there might be some people kicking around looking to hear what people had to say about it. And, we wanted to get some things out to say about it, I guess. That didn't come out very well. But Malik Willis, the first thing that pops, no, Detroit traded that. Minnesota's in 34. I keep forgetting that, and this is an old list, I guess. But Jets, no. Giants at 36? I don't think so. No. I don't think so. Texans seem committed to Davis Mills. Bears have Fields. Seahawks at 40 and 41 could be a spot for Malik Willis.
Yeah.
I think that adds a pretty interesting wrinkle.
Seahawks would be fun.
That adds an interesting wrinkle because that would make what's already a good running game a lot more exciting. You know what I mean? I feel like their running game is good, but there's not a ton of excitement in it. It's kind of workmanlike as far as a run game.
I think teams who would be the best served, like a team like the Titans stands out to me, who like Tannehill isn't going to be there forever, I don't think.
Like
and you were talking about them maybe doing a retool with after trading A.J. Brown going forward. I'm not sure I think that's true, but I think, the Titans would be an interesting landing spot. I think the Lions would be a really solid, idea because you have that offensive line. You have all these weapons. You add an RPO element to that, it'd be very interesting. It would definitely downgrade a lot of those weapons.
Totally, because I don't think that brings with it heavy passing volume.
No,
I think
totally.
Malik Willis, wherever he goes, is not going to bring
maybe the Colts
high passing volume. The Colts would be an interest, like that'd be a fun spot too to see what Frank Reich can do with them.
The Falcons,
big ass Jonathan Taylor behind him, and the Falcons need a quarterback as well. That could be a nice transition from Mariota. They have a year with Mariota. Well, I guess if if Malik Willis goes in the second round, there's no guarantee that he's starting. And I think that would say that Mariota, they could try out a mobile quarterback and see if Arthur Smith knows how to use him.
And maybe the most obvious team is the Panthers. Like the Panthers are,
but they're fucked. They
well, you can
don't
trade back
even
into
have.
the
They could trade back into the second, but they don't have one in the second. There, no third round pick either. So the Panthers, are rolling with Sammy D this year. Wow. So yeah, just all in all, it was a very, very interesting draft. My takeaway was just in the draft itself that it was really fun because it was super unpredictable. We didn't know where guys were going. We didn't know we were very intrigued whenever any of these picks were coming in. And I think the fact that we didn't see that many offensive players go in this round is just kind of an indictment on the draft class, to be completely honest.
Because usually it's pretty even.
Yeah, and there's not really like I was saying a little bit just about the wide receiver class. I don't think there's any elite players at the offensive skill positions. I don't think anybody is truly one of those elite prospects. I think, you could say Breece Hall is maybe a tier under elite at the running back position. I think he's going to be great, but I don't think he's going to be like Jonathan Taylor coming in and blowing shit up necessarily, and I don't see that at the wide receiver or quarterback positions. We're not even probably going to talk about tight end rookies because it's not a very good class. Couple of interesting pieces, but nobody that's kind of a sure bet. So round 2 and round 3 are going to be fun as well as another takeaway. But go ahead with your takeaway from round 1, Ty.
Well, it was pretty even for offensive and defensive players. I just wanted to look at that really quick. Yeah. If you include offensive linemen, you got a pretty even split, as we always seem to get. It's just that lack of quarterbacks, I think, that really made it feel like that offensive influence in this draft is just so, not there. But, I'm excited to see where these guys go. We'll start to see some running backs go off the board, which is the most important when it comes to the landing spot situation is kind of king with these running backs, especially in a weaker class like this one. I to your point that there's no elite guys, I agree. It feels like we could end up looking back on this class as it being a very weak class, but there is a handful of guys at the wide receiver position in particular that I could see if that all the pieces fall into place, and health pending, quarterback play, all this stuff falls into place. They could be elite guys, like a guy like Jameson Williams, you know what I mean, or Chris Olave.
Totally.
And I think all these guys have a lot of desirable traits and a lot of upside amongst them, and especially someone like Jameson Williams. So it'll be interesting to monitor this class and maybe look back on it in a few years too.
Yeah, totally. It always is, and it's
a lot of guys yet to come.
Yeah, something that you always got to do in Dynasty is do that evaluation and do a little bit of roster churning, which is always fun to do. Kind of get rid of that dead weight and bring in some of these studs to come in and hopefully be the future core of those Dynasty championships. So Ty, that's all we really got tonight. This was a lot of fun. It's kind of a new streaming platform, so I think all in all we had a nice little show. James Davis is in the chat. The fact that the Chiefs got Trent McDuffie at 21 is crazy. Dude was ranked as the 9th best player. You're damn right. That was really, we said that to each other.
Go with,
we said that to each other when we saw it, it was just crazy that he was there. I was kind of hoping that if the Eagles didn't get crazy with the 18th pick, I was hoping that he'd come back to them with their second first-round pick. He didn't necessarily. I'm happy with the outcome, of course, and I think the Chiefs got a fucking steal. So I think good on them, and they're going to be competitive still, even though they kind of are starting to do a little bit of their own roster churn, right? As far as cap casualties, Tyreek Hill, they just made a decision on him, and he is now in Miami. But yeah, thanks to all of our sponsors, Fantasy Points Media Group being chief among them. Thanks to all of the team over at fantasypoints.com for their good work. Monkey Knife Fight, Trophy Smack, Underdog Fantasy, and of course, go check out our friends at Viridian Global and pick up some of this True North swag. Get yourself swagged out to the nines. It's just go support the crew. Shout out to our friends at Full Tilt Dynasty. Check them out on the site, truenorthffb.com. We got a page that shows all their content there, and they are doing a ton of shows. And I think they're going to be back tomorrow, probably about 45 minutes before round 2 starts. They're going to be going live, and I might try and jump on for a little time slot just to chat with them about what we saw. So, until next week, Ty, it's been a pleasure jumping in the lab with you, and we will be back next week and rolling on through the off season. We're getting close to redraft season. Best ball season's already in full swing, buddy. After the NFL draft is when times get really fun for us fantasy heads. So thanks everybody for listening. We really, really appreciate you sticking around with us. Till next week. Peace.